Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabe. I welcome you to Amphibians Life Cycle. Frogs and toads migrate to ponds in which they developed. Here, they will lay eggs. So the frogs, as we say, that they spend much of their time on land, but they always visit the water when it is time to reproduce. So when they visit back or migrate back to the ponds, they are going to lay eggs. Fertilization is external, but there is behavioral patterns which ensures that the eggs are fertilized as soon as they are laid. So we know that the fertilization in the frog is external, meaning that the frog or the toad, the frog, a male frog, will land on top of the female frog and it will release the sperms onto the eggs that have been laid in the water. So these eggs are going to be fertilized by the sperm of the male, and that one we call it external fertilization. The male frog or toad, it mounts on the back of the female, gripping her under the arms with its four legs. So when the frog, the male frog, mounts over the female frog, it is going to grip its four limbs under the arms of the female, and by that one it will not be able to move away from the back of the female. In this way, he is carried around in the water by the female, sometimes for many days. So it will be on top of the female, having gripped itself under the arms of the female, and it will be carried on the top of the female for many days. The female lays her eggs, then the male will release the sperms which will fertilize them. So we have our male frog stuck on the female, and the female is now releasing the eggs. When it lays the eggs, now the male is going to release the sperms which are going to fertilize these eggs. So that one is an external fertilization. In contact with water, a coating of jelly around the eggs swells up and the eggs or sperm float on the surface. So we can see here the eggs have been laid. When these eggs are laid, there is a jelly. This jelly is a small coating on the eggs. So when the eggs land on water, the coating jelly will swell. And when it swells, now it is going to allow the egg to float on water. When the jelly swells, it is going to cause the eggs to float on water. And then these other ones which are laid in this form, they will also release the jelly on the sides. That jelly now will swell and they will also now float in water. The jelly reduces the chances of the eggs being eaten by the predator. So this jelly, which is formed around the eggs, is going to protect the eggs against the predators, which may want to take in the eggs as food. So the jelly there is going to be as a protective layer of the eggs against the predators that may want to eat the eggs. The frog spawn forms clamp. Here we have a clamp. This clamp, when you see it in water, you will know that that spawn is for a frog. The toad spawn forms strings. So when you find strings like these ones, then you will know that these are eggs that have been laid by a toad. The newts, these ones lay their eggs singly. So for them, they will just lay their eggs singly, no pattern. They are just laid singly. So when you see eggs laid singly in the water, then you know that those ones are for the newt. And if you see them forming a clump, then you know those are eggs of the frog. But if you see them forming a string or a thread-like structure, then you will know that those ones are for the toad. Now let us look at the changes in the eggs after fertilization. This one, it is we are having the real egg, what is taking place in the egg, and here we are having a cross section through the egg, what we are going to see. First here, it is a single cell. An egg is a cell. An egg is a cell. This is a single cell. And when you look at it cut through transversely, that's what you're going to see, a nucleus and a cytoplasm. Then the nucleus will divide. And when the nucleus divides, this is what we are going to see. You will see an egg forming a leaf outside. And when you cut it through inside, you will see that now the egg has got two nuclei, meaning it has started dividing. And the cell, you see the cell is starting to divide itself in the middle. Then later on, this is what we are going to see. Okay, and what is happening? The cytoplasm now is dividing. The cytoplasm is divided into two cell stages. So here you already see that our cytoplasm has been divided into two. It is this side and this side. Now those are two cells, and if you are seeing it from outside, this is what you are going to see, meaning that the cell has finished dividing and now we have two daughter cells. Then 4 cell stages. Now it has already finished dividing into 2. Now the 2 will also start dividing. And when they start dividing, you'll see now these cells also becoming divided. That is a 4 cell stage. Now this is what you're going to look at the cell. You will see it having a strong division, and you will see another division being formed. So that is the 4 daughter cell stage. Then we have the 8. The 2 have divided. After the 2 dividing, now we are going to have the other 2 also dividing. And when that one happens, we are going to have 8 daughter cells. Then we have a 32 cell stage. Here we are seeing that the cell has divided a lot, and also here it has really divided a lot. And lastly, we have many cells. Now here we have very many cells that have been formed, and when you look at the egg, the cell now outside, it is like that. Now let us look at the changes that take place 4 to 5 days after laying of the eggs. We have this part here, part A. Here we are having our small sphere consisting of 2 or 3 layers of cells. That is that part A. And as days go by, we can see here now part B, it is elongating, it is increasing in length. It is longer than the original. If you look at it here, you will see that now this distance is long compared to the other ones. Now the third stage, we have now the tail and the head are distinguishable. They can be recognized. So here you will see that this part here, this one seems to be the head. And you can see that this part going this way, forming like a cone, that one has to be the tail. Then part D, external gills are forming, wriggling in the jelly and ready to emerge. So you will start seeing that the external gills are being formed. You can see the external gills formed. Here it is this part which has the white part. Those are external gills. And when you look at it in the jelly, you will see it wiggling its tail. That side, the tail comes this side, this side. You will see that wiggling taking place, meaning that now it is ready to emerge out of the jelly. Blood circulation in external gills. Here we want to look at the gills. We have seen that the gills have been formed, and when the gills are formed, they are now the ones that are going to be used for respiration. So they will be carrying blood throughout the gills, and then that blood will come back like that, and then it will go back in that direction. But as it is passing through the water, oxygen will be diffusing and entering into the gills. We shall have oxygen will be diffusing and entering into the gills, and then carbon dioxide will be diffusing out of the gills. So the toad is going to be using the external gills for respiration. The tadpole at first breathes through its external gills. That one we have already seen, that it is going to use the external gills, which are supplied by blood capillaries, to absorb oxygen and then release carbon dioxide. Now let us look at 3 days. The old tadpole attaches itself to jelly or weed with mucus glands, and it is inactive. So at this stage, when you look at it on the sideways, you'll see that it has the mouth, which is still closed. It has mucus glands, and then it also has the external gills. But that is at 3 days. It is inactive. And when you look at it dorsally, this is how it looks like. You can see the long tail. Long tail is there, and then you can see the external gills on the head. So it is inactive and it is in one place. Now at 4 days, the 4 days old tadpole in periods of inactivity with vigorous burst of swimming. So here it is still also inactive, but now it has developed a strong tail. Sometimes you will see it swimming around and then it stops. It will be just swimming very fast and then it does what? It stops. It is inactive but with vigorous burst of swimming. Then on day 6, the 6-day-old tadpole has got now developed external gills, shriving. Then there is the operculum beginning to grow over the gills and actively swimming. Now this one, our tadpole will be seen swimming very vigorously, and you will start seeing that there is an operculum starting to develop, growing over the gills. So it has got the external gills which are developed, and it starts developing the operculum which goes on covering the gills, and it is swimming actively. Still on 6th day, we shall see the intestine through the skin, and the operculum will grow over the gills. So that is when it is still at 6 days. we are going to see the intestines forming inside, if you look at its belly. And then you will also see the operculum developing and covering the gills. So that one is going to take place at 6 days. The tadpole at first breathes through the external gills. So in the beginning we saw that the tadpole is going to use the external gills for respiration or gaseous exchange. That's what it starts with when it is in water. It uses its external gill for breathing. Then after 6 days, a fold of skin, which we call the operculum, grows over the gills, and internal gills take over. That is still at 6 days. Soon the gills are going to be covered in the operculum, and now they will become internal gills. So now the external gills have been covered by the operculum. Now they have become internal gills. The small cleft or the spiracle in the operculum provide the exit of the breathing current. So there is a small current or a small cleft which is left behind. That small opening is going to act as an exit for the current, that is water, which is coming out, should be passing out through that cleft, or what we are calling the spiracle. The early tadpole are the heirs to the pondweed with its mucus glands, and rasp off the surface algae with its jaw. So it is going to attach itself on the weeds in the pond using its mucus glands. It will attach itself on the weeds in the pond, and it will start now rasping the surface of algae with its jaw, what we would be calling eating or biting the algae as it is feeding using its jaws. The long intestine is an adaptation to this herbivorous diet. Now, when it is rasping on the plants, the algae, of course, the content is going to be taken into the gut or the intestines. And because of that, rasping on herbivorous plants, it has an herbivorous diet. Later, the diet becomes carnivorous. The tadpole eats dead remains in the pond. So after some times later, now it will stop grasping on algae and it will start feeding on those small microorganisms which are in the pond. So it has changed from herbivores to carnivores. 3 weeks. Now it is 3 weeks. The 3-week tadpole's external gills and the mucus glands are gone. So when you look at it at 3 weeks, no external gills and there is no mucus glands. So it stays like this for several weeks, thereby increasing in size. So it will stay there with no external gills, no mucus glands, and it will increase in size over a period of time. Six-week tadpole rasping at weeds and algae on snail shells. So it will be now still rasping on algae which is in water, and then also sometimes on the snail shells. After 8 weeks, the tadpole's hind leg is fully formed. The forelegs are still enclosed in the operculum. So we can see that the hind legs are now developed, but it does not have the 4 limbs because they are still covered in the operculum. They will be still covered in the operculum. Then 10 to 11 weeks, the tadpole taking grips of air at the surface, still using the tail to swim. So it has got a tail. It is going to use the tail to swim, but it also has the hind limbs. It has got the hind limbs, which are already out. Then the mouth still quite small. Its mouth is still small. The left front leg has emerged through the spiracle. Right front leg is still enclosed in the operculum. So the first leg to come out is the left front leg, is the one that comes out first, when the other leg, the right leg, is still enclosed in the operculum. At 12 weeks, the eyes become prominent. Now at 12 weeks, now we can easily see the eyes. The eyes are prominent, meaning that they can easily be seen. That is at the 12th week. Then the mouth will widen. Remember we said last time it was still very small, but now the mouth is going to widen. You can see that the mouth now is bigger. Then both the front legs have emerged through the operculum. At the 12th week, now we have both legs, the 4 limbs, have come out of the operculum. Then 13 weeks, At 13 weeks, the tail is going to be reabsorbed. Now, the tadpole is ready to go on land, and after a heavy shower of rain, hundreds of tiny frogs will scramble out of the pond and into the damp vegetation at the margin of the pond. So many of them will jump out of the water and they go into the vegetation around the water pond because of the rain, which makes the grass or the vegetation to be wet or to still have that environment which resembles the environment in the pond. Hello, thank you very much for participating in Amphibian Life Cycle. Please do like, share, and subscribe.